Hey guys, we've been asked quite a few times this week to address this topic and really didn't want to because we can't win when we address topics like this. There's nothing you can say or do that will not result in bad results. So just didn't want to. It was the same thing when the Fukushima accident first happened in 2011. Those of you who missed it, there was a big earthquake and then a tsunami, and it damaged the nuclear reactor at the nuclear power plant, and that resulted in the thing not melting down, but pretty close to melting down. So they've been struggling with it for the last 12 years to get it under control and to deactivate it. What do they call it? What do they call it? There's a word they use for that, isn't there? Shutting it down, basically. So that's what they've been trying to do for the last 12 years, get in a position where they can shut it down and stop the reaction happening. So back when it actually happened in 2011, we kept getting asked to address it and just didn't want to, because we know with topics like this, there'll always be some people that have really strong opinions either one way or the other. So there'll be people saying, you know, you're not taking it seriously enough, you need to run away. That's what they said back in 2011. There was a lot of foreigners who did actually back in 2011. Some other people who stayed here called them fly jin, because usually foreigners are called gaijin, and the ones who ran away were called fly jin by the people who stayed, because a whole heap of people back in 2011 panicked and ran away and said they didn't want to be here because of the Fukushima disaster. So they all ran away. Our thinking about it then, and I think about what's happening now. So just to give you an update on what's happening now. On Thursday, they started to release water from the Fukushima plant that contains tritium, apparently. And you know, we're not nuclear scientists, so we don't really know. But I'll just tell you what I've seen. Just the last few days, what I've seen. So yeah, as part of the shutdown, that was the word I was looking for. They've been releasing tritium. They started releasing tritium from Thursday. What we've seen, Japanese government tell us they're monitoring the levels in the water in the plant. They're monitoring the levels of the water between the plant and the ocean where it passes through, and they're measuring the levels of radioactivity in the sea directly in front of the plant and then out further, and then they're also catching fish and testing the fish to see what levels are going on in there. Now again, I can hear straight away, conspiracy theorists and all sorts of other people saying, you shouldn't believe what they tell you. That's exactly, we could probably take the comments we got in 2011 and put them on this video, or probably the same comments. All I'm doing is telling you what we see. That's all we do. That's all we do. We tell you what we see and what we hear. Okay? That's all we're doing. Okay? So yeah, Japanese government's doing that. Chinese government's got a fair bit of tension happening with Japan at the moment. They only just started to allow Chinese tourists to come to Japan. Until recently, they'd had a ban on Chinese tourists coming to Japan, and they've just allowed Chinese people to come to Japan again as tourists, and it's gone crazy because all the Chinese people who've been waiting for a holiday have all come over, and there's busloads of Chinese people all over Japan at the moment. So they've only just allowed that to happen, right? So there's this ongoing tension between the Chinese government and the Japanese government. Incidentally, not between the Chinese people and the Japanese people. They don't have a problem, right? It's the governments. Because apparently Chinese people love Japan. There's always loads of Chinese tourists in Japan, so they love the place. But the governments have the tension. So Chinese government has banned any food containing any product that came from a Japanese fishery. So anything that has come from the sea around Japan has been banned from entering China, which is going to have a pretty big effect on the fishing industry in Japan, because a high percentage of the fishing products caught in Japan go to China. So China's totally banned them. So until when, don't know, but in the meantime, it's going to be a big effect on the Japanese fishing industry. This is a funny one too. The Japanese government this week warned Japanese people in China. So Japanese government issued a warning to any Japanese people in China to speak quietly, right? They should talk quietly. They advised them that there'd be some tension and that some Chinese people are very unhappy with the Japanese government releasing this water. And so the Japanese government's concern was that if Japanese people in China were heard speaking Japanese, that some Chinese people might react negatively to them. So Japanese government's advice to Japanese people was talk quietly if you're in China, right? That's just telling you what we're seeing. France issued a statement and said that what Japanese government is doing is fully consistent with the highest nuclear safety and radioactivity standards. That's what France said. America said, the American Nuclear Society backed the Fukushima release. They said it was the right thing to do. Because apparently it's essential, I don't know why, but for some reason it's an essential part of the shutdown process, I don't know. And how's this? There's always someone, isn't there? You remember during the COVID panic, that there was all these companies started selling masks, you know, and all this sort of marketing stuff that people try to make a buck. This week on Facebook, a Japanese, the targeting, the marketing targeted at Japanese people on Facebook. So, because they can target different demographics on Facebook, So there was all these ads on Facebook this week for radiation detectors, right? So you could buy a radiation detector so you could measure the radiation levels. So just on that too, 2011, when everybody was telling us that we were crazy to stay in Japan and we should run away and leave the country because it was dangerous because of Fukushima and all this, no doubt we're going to be getting more of that now. People are going to be saying you're crazy because you're going to die and all that sort of stuff. Just everyone's entitled to an opinion, right? That's our thinking on this topic. As long as people are polite and respectful to other people, everybody's entitled to their own opinion on this, right? Now, from our point of view, there's a few things. From my personal point of view, I'm a permanent Japanese resident. I'm not a Japanese citizen. So my thinking is I'm still a visitor or a guest in this country, even though I'm a permanent resident. So I can't vote. So as far as any political activism, I don't see that as being my role, okay? Other people are doing that. There are protesters around the world, I believe, including in Japan, protesting against this water release, That's fine. That's their opinion, isn't it? My thinking now is the same as my thinking 2011. Anybody who wants to can run around with radiation monitoring gadgets, right? That 2011, that's what they did. A lot of the universities were doing it. There were private citizens doing it. There were sort of like green groups, and I don't know if Greenpeace was one of them, but there was different green groups running around with radioactivity detectors, measuring radioactivity. And they were measuring it, but what they were finding, like Tokyo and Osaka and places like that, they were measuring it, and they were finding that it was the same background levels. I remember they found that the background levels were lower in Tokyo and Osaka than they were in Hong Kong. Right? Because I don't know, I'm not a nuclear physicist, but apparently there's a background level all the time, and that's what they were finding. And now the same thing's going to be happening here. And that's why that Facebook thing, pretty rude, trying to make a buck out of a disaster by selling devices, But, okay, let's say lots of people buy them and are running around with them. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? That's my thinking. And it's the same as all these people that are, measuring. And again, there's always the conspiracy people that tell you, the government aren't telling you the truth. The thing is, you can go anywhere. I mean, they've actually opened, there used to be an exclusion zone around the Fukushima plant because of, radiation fears. But now you can actually go pretty close to the Fukushima plant now with your radiation detector if you want to. And you can also go out in the ocean with your radiation detectors. And no doubt lots of people will be. The government's doing it, but obviously there'll be other governments that are interested in this as well. There'll be other organisations and groups. Last time the universities got involved because they all have their nuclear departments, physics or whoever does that, and those guys are all interested in measuring it as well. So there's so many, and again, I know there'll be some people who are saying, they're all in on the conspiracy. That's fine. You can believe that, But our thinking is, there are so many people measuring all these things all over the place, independent from each other, that if there was a concern, we'd be hearing about it, right? So that's just where we're coming from. That's just what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing, and that's where we're coming from. Now, again, I know you cannot make a video about stuff like this without getting lots of negativity and lots of thumbs down. People will be clicking down on this as soon as they click it. As soon as they'll see the video, they'll see the title, they'll see the picture, they'll click on it, and they'll hit the dislike button. Right? Already this week on Facebook, we had people leaving comments about how bad Japan is. They must just search Japan on Facebook, and anything that comes up about Japan, they cut and paste their aggressive, stuff about Japan on there, which isn't going to do any good, because there's nothing we can do about it. The Japanese government's not going to call me and ask me my opinion, right? Thank goodness. So, different people are going to have different opinions, and it doesn't matter what we say, there'll always be people attacked from the opposite. It's the same as the COVID thing. Again, the only reason we made this video, the only reason we made the 2011 videos, the only reason we made the COVID videos is because people ask us. Our friends on Patreon and our PayPal people send us emails. Hey, what's happening with Fukushima? What do you think about that? Right? That's why we make these videos. We don't do it because it's fun. We don't do it because we like the reactions, because we don't. It's horrible. Much rather make one about, working outside at the farmhouse today, much rather make a video about that, than this nonsense. But our videos are anything and everything about Japan. And this is a major thing this week. We can't ignore it. It's not right to ignore it. We can't pick and choose. There are people that do that on YouTube. They pick and choose what videos they make because they know they don't want to make unpopular videos. And we could do that. We could just make positive videos about all the wonderful things about Japan. We could. But that wouldn't be anything and everything about Japan, would it? That wouldn't be the whole picture, would it? That'd be just showing you the good stuff and not talking about anything that might be controversial or upset people or get people angry or something. So that's why we make these videos. So of course there's going to be angry people, there's going to be dislike buttons being punched all over the place and all sorts of stuff. That's fine. Every comment on every video, every comment and every opinion is welcome, except rudeness and abuse. Okay? And that's a YouTube guideline. It's just a civilized part of a civilized society is not to be rude or abusive at people, right? It's a standard sort of a precept, isn't it? Is that what you call it? A standard accepted behavioural norm is to be able to express your opinion without being rude or abusive. So any comments that are rude or abusive, are likely to be deleted. So please express whatever your opinion is on this topic, not on any individual, on the topics, and then your opinions are welcome. I hate this stuff. I hate this stuff. It's like walking on eggshells, walking through a landmine, walking through a mined area with landmines, trying not to step on something that's going to upset someone, set off an explosion. Anyway, that's that. Oh, by the way, before I go, actually lost one of our biggest patrons this week. That was painful. Also lost another one because I won't go into details because I don't want to set something off. It's not on the topic, but because of an opinion in one of our videos, lost a patron. So that's sad, but it's not going to stop us making videos on every topic, right? That's what we do. So pressure, I don't like what you did on that video, so I'm not going to support your channel anymore. That's their right, that's fine, but it's not going to alter our opinion on the fact that we should make videos about every topic, including this one. More videos coming soon.